Hello, Bravo lovers. Welcome to another episode of Bravo Tea with Jared B. I'm your host, Jared B. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I did nothing. I cleaned out my fridge. I did a little grocery shopping. But other than that, I stayed in my apartment all weekend long. Sunday. So I've had a couple of friends that have told me about the show The Offer. The Offer is a show on Paramount Plus. It is about the making of The Godfather. Now, don't throw tomatoes at me. I've never seen The Godfather. I know. I'm ashamed. However, I watched The Offer I think all 10 episodes on Sunday. I loved it that much. It was so good. And so I rented for a month on Amazon Prime, Amazon Video. I don't know what it's called. I rented for a month the remastered version of The Godfather. So this coming weekend, probably Sunday, I'm going to watch The Godfather for the first time. I'm very excited. I had no idea all these things went down to make that movie. I didn't know that, they didn't want to cast Al Pacino because they didn't think he was talented. I didn't know the mob was putting a hit on producers, trying to stop the movie from being made. I didn't know the late Frank Sinatra was allegedly involved or buddy with the Italian mafia. There's so much I did not know. If you have not seen The Offer on Paramount Plus, watch it. Please watch it. I also want to say Friday was a very exciting day. So I have a regular daytime 9-to-5 job. And so when I'm working at my job, I'm sitting at my desk and I listen to either music or podcasts. So on Friday, I'm listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Bravo Bros. They started about a year ago. Shooter and Steele, they are the host. If you have not listened to Bravo Bros, check them out. They're honest, they're candid. They don't give a rip about what you think about their opinions. They're true to themselves. They are hilarious. Many times I'm at my desk laughing at what they're saying, interrupting my coworkers because my office is very quiet. All you hear is keyboard typing pretty much the whole time. So I have to listen to something while I'm working. Otherwise, I will go nuts from the silence and the keyboard typing. So I'm listening to the Bravo Bros, and I have to admit, I slide in their DMs quite often. Maybe I'm a little thirsty, but I would say I am hungry because, I started a podcast and I want this to succeed. So, I might be a little thirsty on social media. I'm sorry. Don't hate me. I'm passionate about this. So I'm listening to the Bravo Bros and they mentioned my name. I offered some of my commentary and opinion to them about the dynamics that currently exist on the Real Housewives of Atlanta between Marlo, Kenya, and Kandi. And, they're new to Real Housewives of Atlanta. They don't have the backlog of the past, 13 seasons, some of their listeners would like them to. But what I appreciate, I like the fact that they're new to Atlanta because they're not jaded. They're not nasty about Atlanta. They're not the ones out there saying some of the fans, oh, I want the old Atlanta back, because the truth of the matter is we're never going to get the old Real Housewives of Atlanta back. We're just never. They can try to revamp the cast as much as they can, but we're never going to get the old Atlanta back. So I'm happy to provide some of my knowledge and opinions to the Bravo Bros because I want them to succeed, and they are succeeding. Excuse me. So yeah, they mentioned me on their podcast. I was in shock. I gasped at my job, and one of my coworkers, Kelsey, was like, did someone die? And I was like, no, the Bravo Bros mentioned me. So shout out to the Bravo Bros. Much props. I have so much respect over what you guys have built with your podcast over the last year. And it inspired me to create my own podcast. And here I am today. So let me stop talking. Let's get into some Bravo news. So, the first thing on with Bravo News is Dorit Kemsley is in the headlines. If you don't know Dorit, she is on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and she's married to PK. I did that accent because Dorit is from Connecticut, but she talks with a British accent. But I will have to say, over the last 2 seasons, that accent has gone down a bit. So, like, was this accent a caricature, Dorit Kemsley? But according to Radar Online, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Dorit Kemsley has been dragged to court by a private nurse who claims that reality star stiffed her after she helped her recover from a plastic surgery procedure, RadarOnline.com has learned. According to the court documents obtained by Radar Online, earlier this year, Dorit was sued by a woman named Natalie Vanderstay, no relation to a Vanderpump, Natalie Vanderstay. The suit demanded the Bravo star pay $8,600 in damages. Natalie said, "I am a private duty nurse, and I provided medical services for Dorit. Dorit had plastic surgery and hired my services for the day and overnight care to monitor and assess her pain, administration of medicines and treatments as directed per her physician's orders, as well as address all her medical needs and concerns." The nurse said, "I submitted an invoice to Dorit after my services were completed, and Dorit has refused to pay me." Natalie, who claimed to have worked for Dorit from November 16, 2022 to November 20th, 2022, said she calculated the money owed to her by the hours I worked at my hourly rate of $100. I worked 86 hours at $100 an hour, which totals $8,600. In April, a hearing was held where Natalie appeared, but Dorit was not present. The nurse said the reality star was served with legal papers despite her non-appearance. After the hearing, the judge ordered Dorit to pay Natalie a total of $8,675. Now the nurse has demanded Dorit appear in court with her financial records to help her figure out how to collect on the debt. Now, as Radar Online has previously reported, as we have seen in the blogs, Dorit's husband PK has had a long history of legal trouble, as first they reported last year when PK settled a years-old debt with the Las Vegas casino, the Bellagio, for an amount of $2.27 million. Dorit's husband has been working to pay off a $3.6 million casino marker for nearly a decade. So, there has been rumors of the Kemsleys and their inability to pay their bills on time. One thing I don't understand is, why don't these housewives pay their bills? They should know at this point in the game that if you don't pay your bills, if you don't pay your taxes, if you don't pay your mortgage, you will be called out on social media. We will see it in the blogs. It will be on Radar Online. It will be on Page 6. Everyone will be talking about it. You will be trending on Twitter. Housewives, pay your bills, because we will hear about it. Oh, Lord have mercy. So let's get to the next thing in Bravo News. This is according to People magazine. Unfortunately, Real Housewives of Potomac alum Monique Samuels and her husband Chris Samuels, it's confirmed to People magazine that they are splitting up after 10 years of marriage. Monique Samuels has filed to legally end her marriage to Chris Samuels. The Montgomery County Family Court confirmed to People on Tuesday that the Real Housewives of Potomac alum has officially filed for divorce from the former NFL player. Though Monique has filed a petition to seal the documents, the docket shows that she filed a complaint for absolute divorce on April 14th and then filed an amended complaint for absolute divorce on June 15th. The former couple's divorce has yet to be finalized. However, Monique and Chris have scheduled a hearing for Wednesday. People confirmed in October 2022 that Monique and Chris had called it quits after 10 years of marriage. I remember this. If anyone remembers at BravoCon last year, what's her face? Ashley Darby said on a BravoCon panel that Monique and Chris were taking a little break from each other and they were living, I believe, in separate homes. Then, like 24 hours later, Monique and Chris were on YouTube, Instagram, something like that, maybe did an Instagram live, and they were denying the reports that they have broken up, that they are together, even though like they were bickering a little in that Instagram live. So, the writing was kind of on the wall. I'm sad to, it's sad to hear about a family breaking up. Listen, once you've seen one housewife announce a divorce, you've seen them all do it. It's pretty common in the world of housewives. I wonder if Monique would ever come back to the Real Housewives of Potomac. I know that Candace would not like it after that physical altercation that happened between Monique and Candace, and Monique Samuels decided not to come back to the Real Housewives of Potomac, even though she said she was invited back by Bravo. I think Monique felt like she was too good for the show, and I don't think she liked the image that was portrayed about her, when she was tugging on Candace's wig, trying to yank it off. So we wish you well, Monique. We wish you well, Chris. It is sad to see a family break up. But when we return, we are going to get into the Real Housewives of Atlanta. So now we have the Real Housewives of Atlanta. This is season 15, episode 7, titled Keeping It Gucci. So we start off with lunch with Drew and this music video director. This scene was hilarious to me because Drew did not realize that that music video director was clocking her left and right, and she did not even know it. So Drew mentions the fact that they first met and she had already done the movie Step Up. If you don't know, Step Up is that movie that used to repeat on ABC Family like every weekend. It came out 17 years ago, and Drew mentions the movie Step Up, and the music video producer is like, what's Step Up? And Drew's like, well, there's several Step Ups, like how there were several Bring It Ons. I guess Gabrielle Union would say I was in the first one. Kirsten Dunst would say I was in the first one, not the second or third or fourth. And so Drew Sidora is like, well, I was in the first Step Up, not all, the many iterations. But Drew, he still would not know what Step Up is. And also, this movie came out 17 years ago, almost 20 years ago. Also, if you did not know, Drew Sidora was in the movie White Chicks. Drew Sidora played the best friend of Marlon Wayans' wife. If you happen to watch White Chicks, coming up anytime soon, check out Drew Sidora. Those are the only two. Actually, no, the Lifetime movie about TLC. So I've seen Drew Sidora in 3 things. But I feel like Drew Sidora feels like her resume is more established than she realizes. Like, I still never heard of you until you came on the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And that's okay, because this is a big show. This is a big platform. And now you're more than an actress now. And maybe you could book some other jobs because of your platform on this show. But anyway, moving right along, I digress. Drew Sidora, she is very proud of those 30,000 streams. Let's remember, Drew Sidora is trying to... Why do I keep on calling her Drew Sidora? Drew is trying to shoot a music video for her new song. My issue is that those 30,000 streams have not grown since Drew and Ralph first shared those streaming numbers on episode 2 or 3. Now it's episode 7. So is anyone streaming the song? If we were to ask Drew today, how many streams does that song have? Will Drew say 30,000? Well, listen. Show Drew Sidora some love. Go out and stream her song. I don't know what it's called, but I'm sure you can find it if you put her name in the search box. let's support our girl because, she's going to have to pay that lawyer for this pending divorce. Then Drew talks about the inspiration behind her music video being her relationship, her marriage, and, the ups and downs of marriage, the love of marriage. And also she mentions the fact that, sometimes marriage is hard. The music video director tells Drew that if her and Ralph can make it past this 8th year of marriage, then they'll be fine. Update. If you did not know, Drew and Ralph are not making it past this 8th year of marriage because in May, we found out that Drew and Ralph raced each other to the Gwinnett County Courthouse to file divorce papers where Drew alleges that Ralph is a serial cheater whose mistresses enjoyed taunting Drew on social media, bragging about the affairs they were having with Ralph. So, they're not making it to year number 9. But I will have to say, are we surprised by that? I mean, when we were first introduced to Drew and Ralph, we found out that Ralph disappeared to Tampa or Jacksonville for 3 or 4 days, did not tell his wife where she went. They have kids. He just disappeared, and we still don't know what Ralph was doing in Tampa or Jacksonville, or the fact that he drove past several beaches to specifically go to Tampa or Jacksonville. So, yeah, that's how we were introduced to Ralph and Drew. So this news of their marriage breaking up is not surprising to me. I do feel bad for the kids because now their family is breaking up. So let's move on to this chirotherapy with Sheree and Sanya. First of all, this place is chirotherapy in Vinings, Georgia. I'm not trying to reveal where I live, but I live near there. I want to try chirotherapy, but I'm not into being in a tank that is negative 200 degrees, even though they do give you a robe and some slippers, I guess. Sheree's excited because Rihanna mentioned her in a E! News interview. And good for Sheree. That's a big mention. I'm wondering if Sheree sent Rihanna a She by Sheree gift bag because Rihanna probably would have posted it on her Instagram and it would have helped boost those sales. Those sales that Kandi questions if they exist. Sheree tells Sanya that she's going to put together a Gucci brunch to make sure everything is Gucci between the ladies. So we get to this dinner between Courtney and Marlo. I've said this before, even though Courtney's voice is a lot to take in, she comes in with a high-pitched voice. But cousin Courtney is growing on me. She has great energy, and I love that she is trying to build relationships with all the ladies. She really hasn't tried to build one with Kenya, but we see at the end of this episode that Courtney and Kandi kind of squash whatever beef they had after, of course, cousin Courtney called Kandi ghetto. So in this dinner, I feel like Marlo is connecting with cousin Courtney because unlike most of the other ladies on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, Courtney has not weaponized Marlo's past against her like the other ladies have over the last, 9-10 years Marlo has been on this show. Let's remember, Marlo has been on the receiving end of a lot of, the ladies reminding her where she came from. And I can't imagine that Marlo has probably felt less than and not accepted around these group of women, which is why Marlo tries so hard to gain their acceptance and their approval. And in my mind, I believe Marlo's way of getting their approval is bringing it on the show and coming for them on the show. But Kandi and Kenya aren't receiving it that way because they're like, no, nah, bitch, you've hurt me. So I'm not going to give you the time of day. I'm not going to give you the camera time. I'm not going to give you the attention. You may come for me, but I'm going to make fun of you and I'm going to ignore you, which is what they did at that Gucci brunch. And I know I've jumped ahead, but I'm glad Marlo has someone. Marlo appreciates Courtney helping her try to expunge her record. Marlo says that none of the other girls have tried to help her expunge her record, but Marlo, baby girl, Have you asked any of the ladies if they know any lawyers that could help you expunge your record? Or did, like, Marlo expect the ladies to just volunteer to help her? Like, I feel like Marlo has high expectations, for her friends because Marlo expects her friends to do the things that Marlo would do for her friends. But Marlo has to understand not everyone operates like that, Marlo. Also, this is the Real Housewives of Atlanta. This is not the Girl Scouts. This is not summer camp. You guys are not going to sit in a circle and sing Kumbaya and braid each other's hair. Like, Marlo, I think you're expecting too much from these ladies. And also, like, you haven't necessarily came at all these ladies correct. So what? They're not going to give you the respect that you're asking for. And at this point, I don't know what Marlo can do to be on a good page with Kandi and Kenya, honestly. But then Courtney asked Marlo why she never expressed these feelings to Kandi, and Marlo says it was because she hasn't seen Kandi. Now, Marlo, you've been filming with Kandi on the show the past 2 to 3 years. We saw you tell Kandi about the murder of your nephew. You had plenty of opportunities to tell Kandi how you didn't feel like Kandi showed up for you when you lost your nephew. But you waited 2 years later to bring this up as a way to also mention the fact that you don't feel like Kandi shares enough of her personal life on the show. So again, I do feel like Marlo's using the death of her nephew to call out Kandi and kind of break the fourth wall and kind of let us, the viewers know that Kandi's not keeping it real like I'm keeping it real. And I feel like Marlo has every right to say that. She should just say that and not bring the death of her nephew into it. Are you guys picking up what I'm trying to put down? I hope so. Holla. So we move on to this lunch at Old Lady Gang, aka OLG, with Kandi and Sanya. So Kandi and Sanya are talking. Kandi feels like Sanya rides the fence, and I'm going to say I do believe that Sanya does try to play Switzerland. Sanya does try to play the mediator, but if you're going to play the mediator, Sanya, if you're going to play the mediator of the group, then you better be ready to hold everyone accountable. And one thing that Sanya is not mediating well at is holding Marlo accountable when she goes off the rails, when she can't kind of stay focused on what the issue at hand is and then kind of goes off the rails. You know, I'm going to suggest that Sanya, take a back seat, fall back, Sanya, and just let Marlo and Kenya not Marlo and Kenya, Marlo and Kandi. Well, Marlo and Kenya have something to work out too. Kandi points out a pattern of Marlo doing or saying certain things, and then Marlo saying, she didn't mean it like that. Kandi opens up about the fact that she's not a sentimental kind of friend. Kandi shares that her brother died when she was 15 years old. I have to say, I can't imagine the armor 15-year-old Kandi felt like she needed to put on herself to protect herself from that childhood trauma. And what's also clear to me is the type of friend that Marlo needs is not what Kandi can give. I believe that if these two can move forward, now Marlo knows what her expectations should be when it comes to a possible friendship with Kandi. But again, Kandi is paying Marlo dust. Kandi does not have time for Marlo. Kandi wants nothing to do with Marlo, which brings into this question. What happens to this? Like, I'm curious what's going to happen over the course of the season and what's going to happen at this reunion. Because the thing is, Atlanta is the type of city where these girls need to have genuine friendships. And right now, to me, as a longtime Real Housewives of Atlanta viewer, there are not genuine friendships in this group of friends. I feel like the only two people who are legitimate friends are Kandi and Kenya. Drew and Sheree don't hang out like that. Drew and Marlo don't hang out like that. Marlo and Drew don't hang out like that. Marlo and Sanya don't hang out like that. Marlo and Kenya don't hang out. Marlo and Kandi don't hang like. And who does Sheree spend her time with? I feel like she hangs out with the OGs like Kim and Lisa Wu and Deshawn Snow more than she hangs out with the girl she's currently on the show with. So here's the thing. Where is the genuine friendship on the Real Housewives of Atlanta? And I believe that is what's missing on the show. But I'm moving right along. We get to this dance rehearsal with Drew. Drew is in the music studio, the dance studio, practicing her moves for her music video. I have to say, Drew's moving well. The dance moves are moving. She's moving that body. I have to say, I'm going to be honest, this whole scene feels obsolete to me. And I will tell you why. Because we know now that Drew and Ralph are getting a divorce. So I feel like we already know how this story is going to end. So it kind of doesn't even feel real to me. And I'm not saying that I think this is fake. I'm not saying that I think they're being fake. But I'm saying that I don't know what's real. Let's remember Drew accused Ralph in her divorce filing, saying that Ralph is a serial cheater whose mistresses who would reach out to her on Instagram and taunt her about his affairs. So in this moment, am I really supposed to believe that they're in love with each other? That they're hot for each other? How am I supposed to feel about this? Because I feel absolutely nothing from this. I'm sorry. So we move to the Gucci brunch. The ladies arrive donned in Gucci labels. Pretty much everyone has arrived, with Kenya and Marlo still left to arrive. And Sheree lets the group know that she wants everyone to be able to have fun again. Sorry, I'm about to take a sip of water because my mouth is getting dry. So Drew says something that I've pointed out before. Drew says that Marlo needs a hug. She needs attention. She needs some love. I've said that Marlo just wants to be loved and accepted. She just has a combative way of seeking that love and attention that she is in search for. Marlo sometimes leads with an insult with the expectation of love to be returned to her. But it doesn't work like that, Marlo. And then we get to Marlo's fashion corner, which was hilarious. This is the Marlo I love. Marlo is hilarious. She, again, has the potential to be a top-notch housewife, but I just believe that Marlo gets in her own way. So Marlo does her fashion corner. She says that Drew looks like a Gucci handyman, which is true. Sheree looks like she's about to give a deposition or a benediction or, give a tour of coffins. I feel like Sheree does look like she could be a funeral director, just a luxury funeral director. Marlo says that Sanya bought her Gucci off the rack and spent 8 racks. Okay, Sanya, the checks, the Bravo checks, the embassy checks are clearing for Sanya. And then Marlo says they look like a bootleg girl group, which is true. Everything Marlo said was true. So I also have to point out that these ladies go to great restaurants. I've been watching this show since the beginning, and they've always gone to great restaurants. Some of the restaurants I've heard of, some of the restaurants I've been to, some of them I haven't. But I have to say, this brunch place, Toast on Lennox, is 15 minutes from my place. I did not know this place existed. So now I'm going to have to go to Toast on Lennox. Their food looks delicious. But yeah, Sheree says that she wants the ladies to come to a place of peace and understanding and to be able to have a good time around each other. And Kenya Moore says that she has Jesus on speed dial. And Sheree says, call him. Hallelujah. 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 That was a little Medea for you. Shout out to Medea, who would be actually an amazing Real Housewife, wouldn't she? Medea would cuss all these ladies out. She would beat Marlo over her head with a pocketbook. Medea would also probably bring a gun to this Gucci brunch. Medea would also probably be Medea would probably be rocking some knockoff Gucci where the G is missing, so it says Uchi, you know? I'm surprised Tyler Perry has not tried that. But, I'm moving on. Like I said, Sheree said, call him when Kenya says she has Jesus on the speed dial. I love this moment that happens. Cousin Courtney and Kandi make amends. This was great because let's remember episode 1 and the rest of episode 2, Kandi was ready to headbutt Cousin Courtney. So now they have come to an amicable place. Shout out to the Gucci Brunch. They are Gucci. Sanya says she feels like there's no reciprocity when it comes to her friendship with Kenya. Kenya says that she fully can't trust Sanya because Sanya went on Watch What Happens Live, Andy Cohen's show on Bravo, and contributed to the rumors about the legitimacy of Kenya Moore's booty. The ladies on the Real Housewives of Atlanta have been questioning the legitimacy of Kenya Moore's butt since Kenya Moore has first joined the show. So this has been 10 seasons. This is a played out insult, dig, shade. No one cares about a fake booty. Everyone has a fake booty. Kardashians have fake booties. No one cares if Kenya Moore has a fake booty. In the words of Sutton Strack, let the bone go. Now, then things unravel at this Gucci brunch, and this is what I don't like. Marlo took the time to articulate her feelings, and she agrees to be respectful as long as they are all respectful to each other. Then Kenya Moore starts play choking because she feels like Marlo's full of shit. And then Kandi says she doesn't believe Marlo's being genuine, even though Marlo said she is being genuine. Then Marlo tries pointing the fingers at Drew, saying Drew brought up the shooting. Nah, Marlo. Here's a correction. Drew brought up the incident. Remember, that's what you were mad at her about. You got mad at Drew for saying incident and not shooting. Kandi's mad at the fact that Marlo has been slandering her name while involving her and her business in the murder of Marlo's nephew. That's what Kandi is mad about. But I respect the fact that Marlo took the high road and she walked away, all while Kenya is calling her a bottom rung bitch. Now, I have to be honest. I learn a lot of things from these housewife shows. I learn a lot of terms and phrases that I've never heard before. I have never heard of a bottom rung bitch. So you know where I went. I went to urbandictionary.com because you are not going to find bottom rung bitch in Merriam-Webster. So I could not find bottom rung bitch, but I did find a bottom bitch. And according to the Urban Dictionary, a bottom bitch, a bottom girl, a bottom woman, sits atop the hierarchy of prostitutes working for a particular pimp. A bottom girl is usually the prostitute who has been with the pimp the longest and consistently makes the most money. So Kenya Moore was basically calling Marlo the queen of the hookers. Queen Ho. Then Kenya says the bitch sold her pussy for a bag. What kind of bag? Like, is this a Gucci bag? Is this a Hermes bag? A Chanel bag? A Dior bag? Like, does Kenya know what she sold the cookie for? What kind of bag? But I have to say that I'm glad Sheree did not let Marlo leave. Marlo and Sheree come back inside after having, a mini powwow, a little heart to heart. Marlo expressed her, Marlo is better at expressing her feelings about Kandi to other people than she is to Kandi herself. When Marlo gets in the company of Kandi, she can't get it together. She cannot say what she needs to say. But then, like, when Marlo's at dinner with Courtney, or talking with Sheree outside, or, talking to cousin Courtney in a hotel lobby, or Marlo talking to her friends, at that dinner like 2 or 3 episodes ago. Marlo has done a great job of explaining her problem with Kandi to everyone but Kandi. So then Sanya tries to jump in, but Candy's like, girl, you are not Olivia Pope. Back up. Fall back, have several seats. And I believe Sanya said this one out. You don't have to jump in everywhere. You're trying to play the mediator. You failed. Let go, let God, and let's hope that Marlo and Kandi can hash this out. So Marlo calls Kandi selfish and calls Kandi a spoiled and privileged girl. All roads lead back to money, unfortunately, with Marlo. Marlo feels like Kandi is an ATM who's just gonna, like, open up her bank account and, like, just do whatever for Marlo that she feels like is necessary. I'm like, Marlo... which is why all these ladies kind of, like, call her a prostitute and a whore and a hooker, because, like, it seems like all roads lead back to money with Marlo. And I don't know Marlo. I don't know her past. There've been a lot of word on the street about Marlo and the men that she has been with. But we also know Marlo has admitted the fact that she did date an older man who was a billionaire who bought her home and bought a home for her mother. So Marlo has been open and honest about her life. I just wish these ladies would stop using her past against her, because you've been doing it for 9 or 10 seasons and the insults are getting old. Marlo owns who she is. So there's no insult at this moment that you ladies can throw out on the show that is going to be, like, shocking to us. But I don't agree with Marlo calling Kandi selfish and spoiled and privileged, because one thing we have seen on the show over the past 14 seasons is that Kandi is very philanthropic. Kandi takes care of her family. And also, Kandi's from College Park, Georgia. Any privilege that Kandi Burruss has at this point, she has earned. Because let me tell you something, they are not giving out privilege packages in College Park, Georgia. If you don't know College Park, Georgia, look it up. Also, you might have heard the song College Park, Bubba Sparks. Booty, 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 rocking everywhere. Booty, 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 boogie, rocking everywhere. I found you, Miss New Booty. I think that song came out when I was in the 8th grade. Very popular. Love that song. So yes, Kandi is from that College Park. I also have to say group functions are not a good place for 2 housewives who squash a beef. 9 times out of 10, maybe 8 times out of 10, maybe 7, 8 times out of 10, things will end up worse than they were. Kandi and Marlo should have had a sit down, just the 2 of them at a coffee shop. That conversation, in my opinion, would have been more productive. Maybe. But let's remember, Kandi will not give Marlo the time of the day. So that would probably never happen. I think Marlo's only opportunities to, like, resolve issues with Kenya and Kandi are probably group events. Because I think if Marlo reached out to Kandi, Marlo reached out to Kenya, they probably wouldn't answer the phone. They probably would not do a one-on-one scene with Marlo. So this is, like, one of the only opportunities Marlo has to kind of, squash a beef with Kandi. And it did not happen. This Gucci brunch went off the rails. But at least cousin Courtney and Kandi are in a good place. So that's it for the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And when we return, we're going to get into Summer House, Martha's Vineyard, and boy, was this episode good. So So now we have Summer House Martha's Vineyard, which has been such a gem. Such a gem. Like, after a somewhat disappointing season of OG Summer House, Martha's Vineyard Summer House has really grown on me. Like I have said, if you have not watched the show, you need to watch it. If you have not made it past the first, second, or third episode, push through, because the show was really good. The show has been such a treat. Shout out to the cast of Summer House Martha's Vineyard. This is season 1, episode 7, titled It Ain't All Rosé. So we start off with a pastel, or we continue off with the pastel and rosé brunch in the backyard, and Shanice is topless on the balcony. Take a sip of water. Shanice gives 0 Fs, and I thank her for that, because she is needed in this summer house. She was needed. She's been a breath of fresh air. She is there to have a good time. Don't judge her, because she does not care. She's going to live her best life. Bria is still in the bed, giving herself a timeout. And I have to say, shout out to Simon, who has just fit in perfectly with the group. He is there to have a good time, and it was hilarious seeing Simon doing his dance moves later on in the episode. But Simon brings Bria a plate of food, and we also see that Bria and Shanice had a conversation about Shanice being naked, fully naked in the hot tub with Simon. So Bria and Shanice squashed their beef. I would have loved to see that conversation instead of it being like a flashback. But at least they had the conversation and they squashed their beef. And I also like that conflict does not last long in this house. Like, that's good. Let's not drag out the BS for the whole season. Please, don't ruin this show. So then Jasmine asks Shanice if she's going to talk to Alex. This is after Shanice is fully dressed and comes out to the table late after everyone's waiting. Shanice tells Jasmine, no, I'll do it tomorrow. Then Jasmine says it again. When it's quiet at the table, does Alex know you want to talk to him? Jasmine, fall back, girl. Fall back. And Shanice is like, no, I got it. But it's too late. It's quiet at the table. Everyone knows something's going on. Jasmine brings up the fact that Alex Googled people, and Jordan jumps right in and says they haven't even had this conversation yet. Simon excuses himself and says, I think he has to go to the bathroom. But what he really does is goes upstairs and tells Bria what's going on. I have to say, I don't see anything wrong with Alex Googling people. If I'm going to stay in a house with some strangers for 15 days on an island where I need a boat or a helicopter to get me, then I'm going to Google everyone. I might even hire Bo Deedle Dadle to dig up some dirt. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But what I would not do is gossip about my findings from Google. Maybe not, possibly. If I became close to someone in the house, maybe I'll be like, I was doing some Googling and I found some things online about so-and-so and I'm a little disturbed. I could see myself doing that. But I do believe that this is a conversation that Alex should have brought to Shanice. And I also believe that he is being scapegoated, because this conversation happened in the house with like 6 or 7 other cast members when Shanice wasn't there. Yes, Alex did the Googling. Yes, Alex did bring up some things, but the whole house has contributed in conversations about Bria and the internet findings from Alex. Alex does, I feel like an Alex thing to do, a namaste thing to do, and Alex excuses himself from the table because he does not feel safe. So Alex takes a little walk in the backyard. But I have to say, this is all Jasmine's fault. Jasmine is convinced that she must try to produce moments for television. I do like Jasmine. I like Jasmine. She is a force multiplier. That she is. But I feel like Jasmine feels the need to make moments happen on television. And I mentioned something that makes me feel this way later on in this episode. Maybe not later on. It might be coming up. But yes, I believe that this was Jasmine's fault. So then we move inside. Some of the group, they're hanging out in a living room, and I believe it's Amir, Jordan, Shanice, Jason, and Preston. Alex makes a joke about Jordan's celibacy, and this triggers something in Jordan, because then Jordan calls Alex out. Jordan's like, Alex, I don't come for your veganism. I don't come for your namasteism. I don't come for your Buddhism, even though Alex is not Buddhist. But like, I don't come for you. Why do you feel the need to come for me and nitpick everything about me? Jordan tells Alex that he has sexualized her more than once in the house. This is true because we have seen Bravo shows the receipts. Then Jordan says, you can look at him, Amir, but I'm talking to you, Alex. Oh, Jordan's not afraid to call it out. And Alex did give Amir a look like, what the fuck is going on? When Jordan started calling him out, we all saw that look. They showed it. Then Jordan tells Amir that he too has sexualized her. And Jordan asks Alex to say what he told her outside. Now, Alex said it in a much different way at this moment than he did outside to Jordan, because outside to Jordan, Alex said basically all the guys were like calling dibs on everyone. And in the house, when Jordan was calling out Alex is like, well, Amir expressed interest in Jordan, and he said that he was interested in pursuing those interests. Nah, bro. That's not how you said it. That's not how you said it outside, but I'm going to let this one pass. I'm going to let it pass. Then Jordan gets emotional because what I surmise from what she expressed in this moment is that Jordan wants to be seen as more than just a pretty face, more than just a pretty body, more than just a sexual being. She doesn't want the fact that she's posed in Playboy to result in people, especially men, assuming that that is who she is as a person. I have to say, I love Jordan. I've said this during my recaps of Summer House Martha's Vineyard. Jordan she gives Housewives vibes. And I could see Jordan in the next 4 years as a future Real Housewives of New York with this current upcoming cast. I can see it. I just need you to imagine it. Again, I love Jordan. She's open. She's honest. She gives you raw emotion, and it doesn't come off as performative. Because I felt her in this moment. Jordan has every right to not want to be sexualized. And I'm not trying to excuse the behavior of men. I'm not trying to mansplain, but being honest, most men don't even realize they're doing it. They're so used to it. You see a pretty woman and you can't help yourself, kind of, no matter what age you are. And again, I'm not trying to excuse the behavior of men. I understand where Jordan's coming from because, yes, Jordan is beautiful. But she's also a human being. And she's not just a body for man's sexual desire. But I also have to shout out Alex for staying in the room, for not turning around and trying to make Jordan seem like the bad person. He did not try to gaslight her. But our boy Amir, he needed to step outside and have a moment because he was in his feelings. He had to call his friend back at home because he didn't like being called out in front of the house. I feel Amir in that, but like it was discussed later, this wasn't really all about Alex and Amir. The emotions that Jordan gave is probably it's probably a culmination of experiences that she has had her whole life that she has never spoken on, that she has never shared, that she has never let herself be vulnerable about. And it just so happens that Alex and Amir bear the brunt of that pain. But Amir and Alex handled it with the best of their ability. And I appreciate that this group, some in this group, they understand about themselves that they maybe need to step away and have a moment, take a breather before they walk back into a situation and handle it. I respect that. You don't see that enough on the Real Housewives of Atlanta or many of the other Real Housewives. But this is also Summer House, and that's the Real Housewives. So again, I appreciate Alex for not turning this around on Jordan. Amir mentions the fact that because of his pursuit of Jordan, because it didn't yield results, that he doesn't feel like he's enough. Amir, you are enough. You are man enough. But I need you to know that how you measure whether you're man enough shouldn't be based on whether you can pull whichever girl that you pursue. That is ego. That is nothing but that's ego talking. And Amir has shared the fact that he was a bit nerdy growing up, so maybe Amir didn't get all the girls in high school. And so now Amir is out here in these streets, he's fit, he's good looking, and he's getting all the girls. And so maybe the high school him, the teenage him shows up when Jordan does not reciprocate the feelings that he's giving Jordan. Teenage Amir shows up and he sees it as rejection, and he sees it as he's not enough. Amir, you can't let whether a woman returning the vibes you're putting out, you can't see that as whether you're man enough or whether you're enough as a person. You just can't. But I appreciate Amir for being honest about it, because Amir could have also turned this against Jordan and made Jordan make Jordan to be the bad person. So we jump a little later, and what I appreciate is after this whole situation, after Jordan has opened her heart, Amir and Jordan have a much needed conversation. And might I add, facilitated by Silas. This is probably the best decision Silas has made in this house the whole time. But the night is young, everyone. The night is young. We will get to Silas later. So the group disperses, and there's a moment in bed with Jasmine and Silas where Jasmine says that she was jealous that she wasn't able to bring the house together the way Jordan did. Did you guys notice that? I feel like that's a weird comment to make when one of your best friends bears her soul about feeling sexualized. And you're thinking about the optics of how it will look on the show. Can Andy Cohen have Jasmine and Silas on Watch What Happens Live? Because I have questions. We all have questions. So we move to the next morning. Silas starts silencing. He had one good night, and he canceled it the next morning. Silas is upset because Jasmine stained his pants with an iron. Listen, it happens depending on the material of your pants. I have burnt some clothes before because the material is maybe a little bit more delicate and the heat of the iron is hot. But Silas is upset because Jasmine stained his pants with the iron. And then we have members of the house preparing dinner, some food for the soul, also known as soul food. That was probably corny. Forgive me. I won't edit it out, though, because I'm being me. But I love how this moment of preparing food so that the group can participate in fellowship and communion, which is a big part of the Black community, gathering around, cooking that soul food. And Jasmine is right. It does take hours. Silas is right. It takes hours of prep. But that moment you dig in at that table, all that prep, all that time, it's worth it. But I love how this moment becomes a history lesson. I really love the historical aspect that this cast is bringing to Martha's Vineyard, Summer House, Martha's Vineyard. Whoever thought of the show at Bravo, whoever casted the show really, really put some thought into it. Because I've mentioned this before. Well, first of all, when the trailer dropped for the Real Housewives, not the Real Housewives, I was about to say the Real Housewives of Martha's Vineyard. When the trailer dropped for Summer House Martha's Vineyard, there were people in the comments of Bravo talking about, well, why is this cast all Black? I thought Bravo believed in diversity. And I have to be honest, I became a keyboard thug. I was in the comments because, I'm someone that knows the history of Martha's Vineyard and Black people. And I also have to remind myself that not everyone knows their history. We have a lot of poorly educated people in this country. And we also have Instagram trolls and Twitter trolls. But I had to let people know that there is a historical aspect for this with this cast and Martha's Vineyard. Black people first arrived at Martha's Vineyard well over 100 years ago as indentured servants and whalers. Black people saved their money and they were allowed to purchase property in a certain area on Martha's Vineyard, which is known as Oak Bluffs. They were only allowed to purchase property in this area. Because they weren't allowed in other parts of Martha's Vineyard. I don't believe Martha's Vineyard became desegregated until the early 60s, maybe 64. But Massachusetts was also the first state to abolish slavery. And Martha's Vineyard, many don't know this, Martha's Vineyard was part of the Underground Railroad. So before you get on Twitter, before you get on Instagram commenting, looking at the show and thinking that this show might not suit who you are as a person, or you might not be interested in it, boy, have you missed out. Because you are in for a treat. There's something so rich and so genuine and so authentic about this cast. And I love it. And listen, I still love me some Summer House OG out in the Hamptons. I really love how thoughtful it feels this show was from Bravo. So I give Bravo a round of applause and a bravo to Bravo. So then we get to Preston's Pride Party. And Preston says the straight guys in the house have to come up with a dance routine. And I have to say, for 3 minutes to come up with a dance routine, this dance routine was okay. But listen, Simon is living his best life in this house. Simon is front and center, giving his best Backstreet Boy / NSYNC moves, looking like a white Rick Ross. Maybach music. Shout out to Ricky Rose. And I have to say, Amir loves him some stripper moves. That's his signature. Was Amir a stripper? Because he's a little too good at that. He's done it twice now on this show, which means that probably when he's with a girl, he pulls out these moves as well. I'm just calling it out as I see it. And I have to say, as an honorary judge, I would like to say that this dance routine lacked rhythm and cohesion, but I give them an A for effort. Now, after such a great night, This episode was really a roller coaster, but it has smoothed out and is ending well. After such a great night with Preston's pride party, right before bed, Silas starts Silasing again and decides to circle back to the fact that Jasmine, I guess, burnt his pants, blemished his pants with an iron. And I'm going to be honest, it defeats the purpose to go in on Silas anymore. Because I've criticized him on this podcast. I've criticized him on social media. There's nothing more to say about Silas when he starts Silasing. All I can say is my hope for Silas is that I hope that he sees himself on this show and decides to grow as a person, decides to grow as a man, and decides to grow as a husband. That's my hope for Silas Cooper. Because I like Jasmine. And if this show comes back for a season 2, which I hope it better, bravo. If Summer House Martha's Vineyard comes back for a season 2, I would like to see Jasmine come back. But I don't know if viewers want to see Silas come back. And I don't know if Jasmine's going to come back if her husband doesn't come back. I don't know Silas, I don't know if he's going to be okay with just like visiting Jasmine on the weekends, because he's not a main part of this cast. So this is why my hope is that Silas sees himself, holds himself accountable, and changes his behavior, which is why we need a reunion. And I need Andy Cohen to have Jasmine and Silas on Watch What Happens Live, because I can only imagine the shady questions, not only from Andy, but from the audience, from the viewers. And bravo, I need a Summer House Martha's Vineyard reunion, sorry, because we already have the show. The season finale is next week, everyone. But there was enough to happen in this house to at least have a 1-part reunion. 2-part max. But I really think we could get away with 1 part. There's so much that could be discussed. I've said this before. Invite Mariah back to discuss her being voted off the island. Invite Phil back to discuss him being voted off the island within one night. I don't think the man was in the house for more than 5 hours. I think this show needs a reunion. And I rest my case. I can't believe the season finale is next week, everyone. This is crazy. When I started this podcast, I was recapping Real Housewives of Atlanta, Summer House Martha's Vineyard, OG Summer House, Real Housewives of New Jersey, Vanderpump Rules. I feel like that's it. Now, Summer House Martha's Vineyard is about to end. So next week, I'm literally only going to have the Real Housewives of Atlanta to recap and the Real Housewives of Orange County to recap. Until the Real Housewives of New York, the new era, they return, I believe, July 16th, if I'm not mistaken, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, things are about to change with the podcast because I only have 2 shows to talk about right now. Even though I am watching. Okay, first of all, let me say, I know I'm ranting right now. I'm rambling. If you are not watching Below Deck Sailing Yacht, this is a fantastic season. There was a love triangle happening between Daisy and Colin and oh my gosh, and Gary. Daisy, Colin, and Gary. There is a love triangle happening, and the season is fantastic. Fantastic. If you are not watching Below Deck, I almost said Summer House Sailing Yacht. If you're not watching Below Deck Sailing Yacht, please watch. The season is fantastic. Also, I am watching Project Runway. It is season 20 of Project Runway. I remember watching Project Runway when it first premiered. I believe it's 2006, 2007. I think it was a freshman in high school. And now it's Project Runway All-Stars, and they brought back so many OGs, and I remember just about every one of them. So those are like 2 shows on Bravo that I am watching that I am not recapping because I need to keep something to myself to enjoy. I'm sorry. I'm not going to recap Below Deck and Project Runway. But listen, if you have not seen Below Deck Down Under, that trailer looks fantastic. Now, I may have to recap Below Deck Down Under. We will see. Because it's not just airing on Peacock. This time it's actually going to air on Bravo. See, season 1 of Below Deck Down Under was only on Peacock. Now, season 2 is going to be on Bravo and then Peacock the next day. So I'm going to think about some things. But, you're probably sick of me. Again, I want to thank you all for the support. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for reviewing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for telling your friends, your family, your coworker, your cat, your dog, your kid, letting everyone know. Shouting it from the rooftop. Bravo T with Jared B is here. Thank you for supporting. I love you guys. I love you for listening. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at Bravo T with Jared B. On Twitter, it's at Bravo T with JB. Follow us. Give us a shout out. Slide in my DMs and say hello. Introduce yourself. Thank you for the support. I know I've said that several times. Thank you. That's it. That's all the Bravo tea I have for you. Until next time, on Friday, where we have a new episode recapping Real Housewives of Orange County. I'll see you there. Have a good night, everyone.